All right, and welcome back to another episode of Vegas Guys Locker Room. I'm here once again with my old man, Pops. How we doing?
I'm doing great. I'm a little upset that the season is over. It's going to be a long wait for the next season, I know.
Dad, it's going to be a long 2.5 months, 3 months here? It's
Yeah,
going to be rough.
it was a great game 7. It really was, except, the Oilers, that just didn't produce.
Yeah,
It
the
was
Oilers fall short.
The Clark. They played strong. They wanted contact, and they got it. And they made it. And I think that's what threw the Oilers off the most, was getting hit all the time. The forechecking was great. And you got to hand it to Florida. They wanted it more.
Yeah, the way that the game played out, you knew it was going to be physical, and you knew the refs weren't going to blow the whistle as much. And there was only 2 penalties in that game.
How many trips did we say in?
Yeah.
Oh,
But we'll start there. What were your thoughts on Game 7 alone? What stood out the most as far as for each team?
well, you know what? The referees take away from the enjoyment of the game. It's a playoff game. Why not change the rules? I mean, you got to call it. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. You call it. That's the only part of it that's disappointing for me, because I want to. It's not that my team didn't win. I want to be consistent. I don't want, just because it's the playoffs, oh, we're not going to call that. We're not going to call this. It's unacceptable. I don't agree with that philosophy of the NHL. It's the only part of it. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. I was disappointed. We got there was no production from Draisaitl. Zero. Zero. And he's the one that really hurt the Oilers in winning that game. He just wasn't there.
Yeah, we had talked about it before the game that if Edmonton was going to have a chance, Draisaitl needed to stand out, essentially. And the whole series, you didn't see much of him. They talked about it during the game. Game 6 was his best game of the series. He showed flashes of where he was going to get. He was hoping to get back to. And Game 7, it just never manifested. He got manhandled defensively.
Florida, we talked about that ahead, too. The 2 players that they needed production from, they got it. They both scored goals.
Yeah.
Had one goalie.
And Verhaeghe got going, and so did Reinhart. And the Verhaeghe goal, that was Bouchard. Bad defense on Bouchard's place.
I don't even know how he didn't see that puck.
The goal was a tough one. Yeah, the Reinhart goal was a tough one. Verhaeghe was the tip, and that was the first goal. That was just bad defense by Edmonton. I think bad defense again by Edmonton on the second goal, but Skinner needs to step up and make that save. He wasn't screened or anything like that.
He had nobody in front of him. Nobody. It was him in the
Yeah, that was definitely one he'd probably like to have back if he could. So, it's a tough one. They came out and they played exactly what they wanted to do, and they played.
And I knew it was going to be a very physical game, and it was.
Sure? You're okay?
Oh, I hit the desk here with my hand.
It's like an earthquake.
And I guess you see it better than me.
Yeah, your camera was shaking up and down. Florida came out and they executed the game plan exactly what they wanted to do. Bobrovsky really stood out. He played an excellent game. Like I've always said, you're never going to beat Bob low. You're going to have to elevate the puck. And the one goal where he got the breakaway on Janmark, I think that's where, if you notice, they showed the stat. They were 0 for 4 or 0 for 3 on breakaways to start the series. And if you go back and watch all of those, they all tried to go low and tried to beat Bob 5-hole because his stick placement and his discipline of where he keeps his stick keeps that 5-hole kind of closed and makes it difficult. You have to elevate the puck on Bob. And when they finally got back to that, that's where they started having some success. And unfortunately, every shot you saw last night, it was on the ice. And Bob's just going to block that with the pad every time.
You know what? Also, too, what I was thinking about was that Conn Smythe trophy. You know what? I understand why McDavid got it. I do. But, again, I agree with, what's his name?
PK Subban and Mark Messier?
Yeah. I agree with him. I think it should be on a winning team. And that's why, look, they did a presentation. They didn't come out to get it. And of course, you were right. I'm not going to go out there either. I just lost. Why am I going to go out there and let the Florida fans, because it was there at home in Florida, so you let them enjoy it. Because it'd probably blow them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, for that topic alone, I mean, it's not the first time it happens, and it's because it's a whole playoff MVP, not just a finals MVP.
Right.
I think that.
Bobrovsky, it was definitely between Bobrovsky and.
Oh, but if you're gonna go, if you didn't know who the winner was, and you looked at the stats, and you looked at okay, who was the MVP of the playoffs, it clearly was Connor McDavid by a landslide. It's not even close. But I do agree with you. I do like to see when the winning team does get it because it just means a little bit more. The Conn Smythe now will not be celebrated. It will not be celebrated whatsoever going forward because that kind of goes hand in hand with the Stanley Cup. You see the Conn Smythe winner with the Stanley Cup champions. Connor McDavid's just not going to do it. I mean, you're not going to see a whole lot of celebrating with that Conn Smythe because they lost.
So people wouldn't do it. I mean,
no, nobody's ever come out from the losing side.
It takes away from, I think, the enjoyment of the game, the celebrations. That's part of it. Mm-hmm. You just eliminate one of the celebrations.
Yeah, but getting back to the game itself, I think a lot of it. There was a couple of factors I think was kind of hard on Edmonton. I mentioned it. We were watching the game. I mentioned that the ice quality was terrible. I thought the puck, you could tell it was bad in the beginning. The puck was just bouncing all over the place.
How many people were falling?
How many times did McDavid fall?
Yeah.
McDavid fell a ton. Every time he tried to make one of his normal cuts, and that's where he gets his separation, is making those cuts, he slipped and fell. I thought the ice quality was terrible. Yeah, it was very. I mean, we saw it all game long. It was bad. And that's just the tough part of playing down in Florida with the humidity and it being essentially
end
of June. Yeah, end of June in Florida. You know it's going to be rough conditions, especially for a team that relies so much on speed. But I thought Florida simply, you saw it in the first period. They executed their game plan, and it looked like they were just going to win that game. I thought that game was over early. I held out hope maybe when it went into the second period tied, which I don't know how it was tied, to be honest, because Florida outplayed them big time. They played
a great goal. I mean, for me, it was just under the arm.
Yeah, he went out. You have to elevate the puck. Yeah. His pad's always going to be there. But to be 1-1 going in, it gave them a shot. It's okay, get back. It's still a neutral game. Get in there, reset, and play your game plan. And it just felt like they never got to it.
Florida was good at protecting the net and helping Bobrovsky out, too, because they were blocking shots.
They were blocking shots, especially when they took the lead. Then they really just went into the shell defense.
Yeah.
And basically
it was just were there.
Yeah, they continued, especially after they scored the second goal. They just iced the puck, and they basically just all sat and they secured that area in front of the blue paint.
Yeah, they did.
It is what it is. You weren't going to get anything there. I mean, there was a couple chances where I thought McDavid was going to score. He gets held up, and so there's Hyman. He gets his stick held up
in front of the net.
There were so many bodies in front of the net. It was right when Messier and Subban said that after the first period, the next goal could be the winner, and it was a 2-1 game. It was a very, very hard fought game. I thought Edmonton, though. Listen, I said it.
They made their attempts in the third period. They just couldn't get by Florida defense.
Nobody expected this to go 7 games. I mean, after being down 3-0, they showed the stats during the game. I think it's only happened 4 times in NHL playoff history. It's happened once in the MLB and never in the NBA.
Yeah,
you don't see it a whole lot, and it was amazing that they actually got that to a game 7.
With the second team came back from a 3-0 deficit to win it. Because, I mean, there's only one other team. What was it, 1942? Toronto?
Yeah, in the finals. Yeah, it was Toronto. Yeah, Toronto in the final. But remember, you've already seen you've seen one. You know, we watched. Usually, you don't get many of those in your lifetime. We got one already when we watched Boston beat the Yankees, and we remember watching that. I remember exactly where we were when we watched that game. We were down at Steiner's Pub watching that Game 7 in the Yankee Stadium, and that was the best feeling in the world.
Great day.
That was a great day. Great after Damon hitting that grand salami. Oh, I was loving life. That was a great time. But I was hoping to see a second, 3-0 deficit come back to win the series. Unfortunately, Edmonton falls a little short, but McDavid did McDavid things to get in there.
Sorry for McDavid because, I mean, he's so skilled, but their defense is their Achilles.
Oh, it always has been.
Yeah.
I mean, they
And
brought in
it's
coach
only
after coach.
that I don't see it happening for him because
Yeah,
their
it's tough.
defense is what makes them lose.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Subban said, defense wins championships. You got to be able to play D, protect the lead. You got to protect the house. And Florida was just that much better at it last night than Edmonton was. So unfortunately, Edmonton does fall short. It would be nice to see McDavid, like they talked about. Can you put him in that category of the great? And he hasn't won a Stanley Cup yet. And it's got to be eating at him that he hasn't got there.
Eichel got one.
Yeah, and that's really got to be eking him, to have the guy who was in that draft class with you, who's going to go number one, who's going number two, goes McDavid, Eichel, and Eichel's got a ring, and McDavid's still trying to get his first. I give credit to McDavid. He stuck it out with Edmonton during some dark times, and that team with that series, so many number one overall picks on that team, you would have thought they would be able to get there by now, and it just hasn't happened for them.
Well, like I said, I think Draisaitl was the one that cost him. It was like he was non-existent in the game.
Yeah, it was a tough.
They not the Draisaitl we seen all year. Definitely.
No. Yeah,
So,
he definitely did not. His game did not show up.
No. Or was it Florida's defense that just shut him out?
Yeah, I mean, the physicality. If you watch a lot of Draisaitl's highlights, if you're physical with him, he's a big guy, but he's not a physical player.
Yeah.
So I think that's his kind of Achilles heel. If you watch him during any kind of games where he doesn't score, you see the other team is able to play physical on him. And Florida, of course, having a home ice, they get the last change so they can match up against that top line, really neutralized them, and they did a hell of a job on Draisaitl and kept him quiet the whole series.
As much as I don't like Florida, I got to hand it to them. They played their game. They really did.
I mean, you got to give them credit. They definitely played the game to win. And congratulations to the Florida Panthers.
Yeah.
I have my reservations. I'm not a Kachuk fan.
No, me neither.
I'm not a Paul Maurice fan.
For me and Mom, he's the main reason we wanted Florida to lose.
Yeah, he can be a little much. Man, like I told you, I didn't have respect for him last year when he decided, I can't. I'm too hurt to play the game 5. When you knew that series was over. I mean, it was pretty much, it was in the bag that Vegas was going to take it. He'd already played with that injury, and not show up for the last game, I thought was kind of, come on, man. Like, you played the last few games with the injury. You could have toughed it out. I mean, come on. But, hey, it is what it is, and, hey, they played. And the person I'm happy most for is Bob, because Bobrovsky's always, he's been a hell of a goaltender for so long. I remember when he got the contract to go to Florida, everybody thought it was ridiculous how much they were paying him. And, hey, I think single-handedly he was the reason they won. They've been so good in the last 2 years.
And talking about Bobrovsky reminds me of Allmark to Ottawa. Soccer.
Yeah. That's curious to see, Linus Allmark going to Ottawa, shipping him out from Boston. I mean, listen, the guy's, he wins the Vezina, previous season, and man, to get traded that quickly and lose his place in that team, that roster. But it's a good move for Ottawa. I think they got a really good young team. I know they really struggled with finding goaltending last season. Hopefully it's a good step because that's a talented team. That's another one of those teams that has a lot of high draft picks. They made a lot of good moves.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how they do next season. So speaking of next season,
we're going to wait.
We do have to wait, unfortunately. What do you think? I think the Florida Panthers could be another team that's going to be there again. I just think their contract situation is very nice. They probably got most of their team returning.
Anybody else.
I don't think they're losing anybody significant. They're going to be strong. Their core players will still be there next year. Bob is still under contract, so I think it's going to be good.
I don't know if we will be as good as we were this year, next year.
We've talked about that. That's just a little brief glimpse in the future.
It's hard to even discuss it.
Yeah, well, that's why I figured we'll talk about the Golden Knights more next week if they lock down Marshy or if he's going to hit the free agent. Because if he hits the free agent market, I don't think he's coming back. So they still got some time to try to re-sign him. We talked about a few of the Golden Knights last night that weren't coming back. Will Carrier, of course, is not coming back.
Mom's upset.
Anthony Mantha is not coming back. So it's one of those things where you got to clear some cap space. I think it's going to be tough. If they can get him back, I don't think we're as deep as a team as we have been in the past. You're going to have to get some of these guys from the AHL, these younger guys, step up and come in there and play a significant role.
We should have been there this year.
The injuries, no team chemistry. It happens. Yeah. Whoever's the healthiest has the best chance. Florida suffered from it last year where they kind of got hurt in the playoffs. I mean, they had some grueling series. None of their guys were 100%, and it's the way it works. It is what it is. But, man, great series. It looked like it was going to be one of those blowouts where you're like, oh, this sucks. I can't. There's no attempt from Edmonton to come in this, and they made it a series, and it was an epic Game 7 to watch. It was a close game, so it was great to watch.
And I watched the initial celebration, the cup lift, and then I turned it off because I didn't want to see Kachuk.
I didn't want to see Kachuk race, but then I didn't want to watch that part. But but like you said, hopefully maybe they'll grow a fan base down there in Florida, and you won't see those days of empty stadiums sitting around there. So maybe they'll start watching more hockey.
A lot of people should start talking about the ice because I think the ice was the biggest factor of that game.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to deal with, and I know that the first year we here at T-Mobile, we got voted for having the best ice in the league, but that was before we were holding concerts and all kinds of things going on at T-Mobile. Once they got rid of that, I mean, now our ice is the same as everywhere else, where you can see the puck bouncing.
It's all new, nothing's set and stable, and it makes a difference.
It's tough. I know when they're doing that women's basketball game at T-Mobile now, that Caitlin Clark game that they're playing against the Aces. Hey, good for the WNBA. You want to try to make some money. Finally, maybe they can turn a profit for once. So hopefully this does it for them. But man, like I said, the ice quality is tough when you're holding that many events at one venue. What do you think of
right now until October?
Well, yeah, you got the training camps and you got preseason coming up during September, and then you got, of course, October. Should be eventful to see what we look like. What do you think of Edmonton's chances for next season?
I want to see what they do for defense. They got to do some changes for defensive purposes.
I'm curious on that part because I actually like the defensemen. I just think because remember, you got to think too, when they came into the season, they start off so poorly, and they had a huge coaching overhaul.
Yeah, they were what 9 to start the season.
It was ridiculous. I think it was even worse than that, to be honest with you.
91.
Yeah. To have a full offseason with this coaching staff possibly, I think could be beneficial to them. You already know you got two studs in McDavid and Draisaitl. Draisaitl's he's going to have nightmares about this series going forward until he gets that Stanley Cup victory.
Yeah. Headlines about Draisaitl.
Wait, you got to look at it too from Florida standpoint. They were the guys sitting on the other end of the ice watching the other team celebrate last season. That always throws a log on the fire. And you notice when they got there again, they didn't touch the Conference Cup. They didn't touch it this year.
Yeah.
So it should hopefully sparks something for Edmonton. But listen, our Golden Knights hopefully will get back there. I know our time is getting kind of thin when we can press forward. Our guys are getting a little bit older. Contracts are starting to come into play where we can't pay everybody.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get there. But great game 7. It was epic to watch. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. Hopefully, we were hoping for Edmonton to see if McDavid could finally get a cup, and unfortunately falls a little short this year. But
you know what? He needs to make a phone call.
To who?
He needs to call up Eichel.
Oh, Jesus. Man, just twist the knife in there, man. But I think it was a great series to watch, and hopefully next year you're going to have some powerhouses at the top there. I know Dallas will be back in rare form. They're raring to go. They're hungry for a cup. Vegas wants to get back there. Edmonton's going to want to get back there. Vancouver looks amazing, of course, and they can
Vancouver was the one that I had going to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, but we don't need another riot in Vancouver.
No, I know.
God forbid, man.
Anybody out there, if you haven't seen it, you got to check it out.
Oh, yeah, that's the 30 for 30 series. Great show.
You got to watch. I mean, it was fun to watch.
Yeah.
But the people were like sick people.
But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of teams pressing to get there. Boston's always going to want to make a push. Their guys are getting older. Marchand's going to want it. He wants another cup. New York getting so close. Rangers want it.
So many changes in their roster this year because they wanted to be there this year and they didn't make it. So I have a feeling they're going to make a push next year.
Carolina's another one that can make a push next year. So it's going to be fun to watch. Going to be interesting. But again, next week we'll talk what's going on with the Vegas Golden Knights and see if they do get Marshy back on contract or if he's gone and where we go from there.
You got it.
Yeah. So anyways, guys, thanks for joining this show. Really appreciate the time.
Everybody.
Thanks, Pops. Appreciate you joining me for this one. And guys, we will see you in the next one.